Welcome to Mindcast, the podcast where we dive deep into the stories shaping our digital future. I'm your host, Will, and today we're talking about billions of dollars, groundbreaking legal precedents, and the future of artificial intelligence itself. Picture this. A single AI company just paid $1.5 billion to settle a copyright lawsuit. Not million, billion with a B. And here's the kicker. This isn't even about whether AI training violates copyright. It's about something much more fundamental that could reshape the entire industry. We're living through the most significant copyright battle of the digital age, and the stakes couldn't be higher. On one side, you have AI companies claiming they're building the future of human knowledge. On the other, you have authors, artists, journalists, and creators saying their life's work is being stolen on an industrial scale. But here's what makes this story fascinating. The courts aren't giving anyone easy answers. Instead, we're seeing a complex legal chess game where billion-dollar companies are learning that how you acquire your training data matters just as much as what you do with it. Today, we're going to unpack the landmark cases that are rewriting the rules of the AI revolution, from Anthropic's massive settlement to OpenAI's courtroom battles with the New York Times and major authors. By the end of this episode, you'll understand why the era of move fast and break things is over for AI companies, and what this means for the future of both artificial intelligence and human creativity. Let's start with the earthquake that shook the AI world. Anthropic's historic $1.5 billion settlement with book authors. Here's what actually happened. In June 2025, federal judge William Alsup made a split ruling that changed everything. On one hand, he said that training an AI model on copyrighted works is fair use, a major win for the AI industry. But then came the devastating blow. Judge Alsup found that Anthropic had knowingly downloaded and stored over 7 million digitized books from shadow libraries, essentially pirate websites like Library Genesis and the Books 3 dataset. The judge ruled this mass acquisition of pirated material was inherently irredeemably infringing. This created a legal paradox for Anthropic. They'd won the argument that training is fair use, but they were still facing trial with virtually no defense for using stolen data. The potential damages were astronomical, up to $150,000 per work for willful infringement. So Anthropic paid $1.5 billion, not because AI training is illegal, but because they built their technology on a foundation of theft. This established a critical legal principle. The legitimacy of AI training is inextricably linked to the legitimacy of your data supply chain. This brings us to what I call the clean hands doctrine in AI development. The Anthropic case has forced a fundamental strategic shift across the industry. The era of indiscriminate web scraping and turning a blind eye to shadow libraries is over. Companies are now scrambling to implement a clean room approach to data acquisition, using only explicitly licensed content or material in the public domain. But Anthropic isn't the only company in the hot seat. OpenAI faces an even more complex battlefield, fighting multiple lawsuits consolidated into federal court. The most significant case is the New York Times versus OpenAI and Microsoft. Instead of focusing solely on training data, the Times is highlighting harmful AI outputs. Their evidence is compelling. ChatGPT can generate verbatim excerpts of paywalled New York Times articles, effectively creating a substitute product that lets users bypass the newspaper subscription model. This directly attacks the fourth factor of fair use, the effect on the potential market for the original work. And that fourth factor? Courts consistently describe it as the single most important element of fair use. The New York Times case also raises fascinating issues beyond basic copyright infringement. They're alleging violations of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, claiming OpenAI systematically stripped copyright management information from articles it scraped. They're also arguing about AI hallucinations,
where ChatGPT fabricates false information but incorrectly attributes it to the Times. OpenAI has fought back aggressively, accusing the Times of hacking their product by using deceptive prompts designed to make the model regurgitate copyrighted material. When a court ordered OpenAI to preserve billions of user chat logs as potential evidence, OpenAI argued this was technically impossible and violated user privacy. Meanwhile, OpenAI faces parallel class action lawsuits from authors including George R.R. Martin and John Grisham. These cases argue that ChatGPT can generate text mimicking authors' unique styles, making the model an engine for creating infringing derivative content. The authors frame this as existential. They argue they've been made unwilling accomplices in their own replacement by technology that threatens their livelihoods.
Let's examine the fair use defense itself, the doctrine at the heart of virtually every AI copyright case. Fair use is a four-factor test, and AI companies have built their entire legal strategy around arguing their use is transformative. But here's the problem. The fair use doctrine was developed in a pre-digital world to analyze discrete acts of copying. Applying it to the ingestion of trillions of data points to create a system capable of generating infinite new works creates conceptual paradoxes. We're seeing contradictory reasoning from different federal judges. This judicial schism creates massive uncertainty for the industry. The legality of AI training could hinge on the random assignment of judges, an untenable situation for a multi-trillion-dollar industry. There's also an emerging consensus around what I call the piracy poison pill. Evidence of using pirated sources appears to be fatal to fair use claims, regardless of how transformative the technology might be. Courts won't protect parties with unclean hands, even if their technology is groundbreaking.
So, where does this all lead? Three critical trends are emerging that will shape the future of AI development. First, we're seeing a judicial cordon around piracy. Courts are drawing a bright line against illegally acquired training data. This is forcing a paradigm shift where robust data governance isn't just a best practice, it's a legal necessity. The days of indiscriminate scraping are over. Second, successful legal challenges are focusing on concrete economic impact. The New York Times strategy of demonstrating direct market substitution signals that future cases will center on the fourth fair use factor, effect on the market. Third, licensing is becoming inevitable. As legal risks multiply, market-based solutions are emerging as the most stable path forward. We're already seeing early examples like OpenAI's content deals with news publishers. The foundational period of AI development has definitively ended. For creators, the legal tide appears to be turning, forcing a long-overdue conversation about valuing the creative work that forms the foundation of the generative AI ecosystem. The story we've explored today isn't just about copyright law or AI technology. It's about power, creativity, and how we value human expression in an age of artificial intelligence. The billion-dollar settlements and courtroom battles represent the birth pangs of a new era, where the relationship between human creativity and machine learning must be reimagined. The courts are essentially asking, can you build the future on a foundation of theft? And increasingly, the answer is no. The AI companies that thrive won't be those with the most sophisticated algorithms or the largest scraped datasets. They'll be the ones that figure out sustainable, ethical ways to access training data while compensating the creators whose work makes their technology possible. As we look ahead, the future of AI will be defined not just by technological innovation, but by our ability to create frameworks that respect both human creativity and technological advancement. Thanks for joining me on Mindcast today. I'm Will, and remember, in a world of artificial intelligence, human creativity remains our most valuable asset. Until next time, keep questioning, keep creating, and keep thinking about the future we're building together.